Welcome everybody to our 2020 annual meeting review. Because we're doing the annual meeting in a different way this year via Zoom, I thought it would be helpful to walk you through some of the many things that have happened at your church over this past year. We start out here in the St. Francis Memorial Garden, where people can scatter their pets' ashes in the inner circle in the pine tree behind me. You see this lovely statue of St. Francis pictured with a baby deer, a fawn. Many of you know that we had two baby deer, two fawn, born here at Ascension during the summer of 2020, and we watched them grow up with their mother. So this place has really become alive with wildlife, and it seemed like the perfect place for people to have their pets laid to rest as part of their church. Also, it's in this west garden, looking at the church itself, that we worshiped when we were able to regather to worship in person. And so some of you may know that the chapel wall, the Columbarium wall, is out here in this same west garden. And so some people, it gives them comfort that their pets will be forever here and they will be forever in the Columbarium. And so a lot of work went into creating this chapel, this garden. A lot of work from getting the statue and laying the stones and preparing the grounds. And so everyone involved, we owe a deep debt of gratitude. So we continue out here, still on the west side of the church. I want to highlight a couple of things. Looking up behind me at the masonry work, the bricks. So around the windows of the office and the bathrooms on the second floor behind me, water was coming in both through the bricks and the failed window lintels, and they've been replaced, and the bricks have all been tended to. And the final part of that project included the rebuilding of the chimney you see behind me. And the other one, you see a little stub of a chimney. That chimney came down and they had to cap it because that chimney is no longer in use. And so now all that peeling, maybe some of you remember the terrible condition of the walls on the inside of the offices and the bathrooms. All that is now perfectly, beautifully done. You'll see when we go inside. But that couldn't have been repaired until we repaired all of this masonry work. Many of you obviously know this view from the front of our church. Well, even in the middle of the pandemic, people really wanted to provide food for those who were hungry and an opportunity for community. And since we have this huge, big lawn, we were able to safely distance. People wore masks, distance, but they were able to sit and enjoy the green space both here and in the West Garden where we just were. And we were able to have our Frankfurter Fridays in a way that met the needs of the community as well as our safety needs for COVID procedure. Now, while we're out here in the front of the church, a big project that was very costly was repairing the roof of our beautiful church building itself. Now, the roof is fine and has many years left, but unfortunately the flashing was not installed properly, and we needed to redo the flashing while keeping the current roof, which of course included the peaks of the roof up by the gutters along the lines of the gutters. So again, when we go into the church, you'll see, unfortunately, that water was getting into our church building, and now some of those walls are crumbling. And so we were able to repair that, and next we will repair the inside of the church walls. Some of you may remember the sermon I preached in this space about the sky falling, about the big hole that opened up in the ceiling here in the choir room. That happened way at the end of 2019, beginning of 2020, but we couldn't do anything about it because we had the Montessori school next door in the Undercroft. And so it's been well before the pandemic that our choir has not been able to rehearse in this beautiful choir room. And of course, every little thing took a lot of work. We had to empty all this stuff out of here. Thank God for Margie and John and other volunteers. We had to move it all out so that the ceiling could be repaired and there could be painting done. And now when the choir is ready and we're cleared to sing, we can't wait to reuse this choir room that has been so loved by this church for such a long time. So here we are in the Undercroft. As many of you know, this space has been used for several years by the Lakewood Montessori School. And our intention had been to wait until they were out of school last summer in order to do the repairs on this ceiling, because if we were obviously hammering or trying to do the repairs, that would interrupt their school year. Well, little did we know, of course, that the pandemic would come and everything would be disrupted. And unfortunately, the Montessori school is no longer in existence. But if you look at this space, you see that up on the ceiling, you see these new light fixtures that are high energy efficient lights. And you can also see this molding around each section of the ceiling that wasn't there before. So now this ceiling and space looks much more time appropriate to the style of the architecture here. And so for the time being, we use this space for 8 a.m. worship in the summer if it were raining and we couldn't be outside. We brought the furniture from the guild room in here so that we could properly social distance and also have some prayer, centering prayer time in here. So until we find another tenant, this is how we will use this space, freshly renovated. The cost of redoing, of course, the ceilings and the lights, again, was another very big cost, as Corky pointed out in her report. Another project that we worked on was an addition to our Columbarium. The Columbarium right behind me, of course, has been here for a number of years. But as we as a parish began to grow again and become more stabilized, it was clear that we needed more space because people were asking about their final resting place being here at the church to intern their ashes, and we had no more niches left. And so we were able to sell enough spaces before we then began this project to build this new columbarium that is here to my right. But of course, there was a lot of difficulty with it because the older columbarium was built 40 years ago, or many years ago, that might not be the right number. And so they couldn't match the wood perfectly. So the first attempt didn't work and it didn't blend at all. Now we knew it wouldn't be a perfect match, but we wanted it to complement as this one so beautifully does. So Winterich started all over again and came up with this final product, which we really love. And now there are many niches for you if you're interested in being interred here. So, do you remember I just said that they had to do the columbarium twice? Well, when we went to the wood shop and I saw the carpenter and I asked, "What are you doing with that first one that didn't work?" And he said, "Oh, we're just going to have to discard it, put it on a junk pile." And of course, my priest thinking kicked in and I thought, they can't just get rid of that. We could use that one too. And I asked the owner, John Wintrich, if he would consider donating the Columbarium. Well, at first he was a little hesitant, of course, because it's a huge ticket item. And then once I reminded him, well, you were going to just get rid of it, he kind of was inspired, I believe, by God to say, yes, why don't you use it? Then the remarkable thing is, if you look closely the next time you're at church, the color of the wood on this columbarium matches perfectly with the windows and the doors here in the narthex. Before we put the columbarium in, though, the second one, of course, the wall was crumbling from what I told you about the roof flashing outside. So above the columbarium, the wall was just destroyed. So we had to completely repair that wall and the wall around the windows here of the women from the Old Testament. And so all that was repaired before then we put this columbarium in as well. So now we're in the balcony in the church, and you can see behind me the window, the stained glass window of the baptism of Jesus, which I referred to in the sermon last week because we celebrated the baptism of Jesus. As you know, we have many beautiful windows here in this church, and it's a beautiful place to worship God. But unfortunately, outside, as I was pointing to the flashing and the roof that was failing, if you look along right next to our beautiful rose window, you'll see that the plaster is coming away from the wall, and it's going to be a major project, which is also included in the roof project that Corky referred to. So we have to repair that plaster work all along the point going all the way up behind the rose window. And unfortunately, it's true on both ends of the church. And so above the altar, the window that is there, you can see on either side of the window, the plaster work is failing as well. And so that will need to be repaired too. So we're so grateful for the person who gave the matching donation and all of you who gave to support this project for our roof and our walls so that we can continue to have this glorious place to worship and honor God. Remember the window lintels and the masonry work I was talking about outside? Well, this hallway that goes from the church office to the chapel is one of the places where it was so apparent that there were problems. The walls were literally crumbling and cracked around this window. It was just a terrible sight, and now you can see it's beautifully repaired and repainted. And we'll continue this same understanding and comparison in the church offices and the bathroom. That's all the same issue, the window lintels and the failed masonry. We're in the restroom outside of Ascension Hall. And some of you may remember this was also getting very, very bad. There was that old metal cabinet here on the wall, and all around it and on both sides of the window, again, the wall was just crumbling. Well, you can't repair the wall inside without taking care of the water issue outside. So again, the window lintels, the masonry work was repaired, and then all of this was done as well. back office now. And some of you may remember that this also was in very bad shape. The floor were terrible black and green tile flooring. This new flooring was laid. The walls were a bluish color and of course cracked and crumbling. All around the windows behind me, the plaster again was failing. This whole wall had to be rebuilt. Again, after the lintels were repaired or replaced, we put new lintels in and the masonry work was completed. So here we are in the rector's office. The rector's office, the main office, and the back office all share a common wall, which means we had the same common problem of the failed window lintels and the blistering walls. And so all three have been finished. You can see when you came in, both the rector's office and the main office have this nice blue carpet, and the back office had that nice new floor that you saw just a moment ago. So all of this, of course, took a lot of work to do the repairs along the windows, the painting, the walls. And so while we were not meeting in person, there was an opportunity for the plaster repair person to come in and to continue her work so that the offices could be done. And of course, again, it required numerous people to come in and to move things, and to even the carpet. We had somebody, Doug Herchanik, volunteered to lay the carpeting, and not many people participated in the efforts to get this done. Another big project that it's hard to see is the technology that we've upgraded here at Church of the Ascension. You know, we've been live streaming our services, and that was a series of events. The first, of course, was the upgrade of our sound system. And then as we were upgrading our sound system, we were trying to record our services. We realized we needed better Wi-Fi. And then we got a new and improved Wi-Fi. And then we realized that then we were paying for 2 internet connections. The other one was connected to our old phone lines. And there had been a committee looking at updating our phones to internet phones rather than landline phones. And so all of that continued to fold into a major technology project. We're in the process of replacing our phones. Well, the security system for the church and the fire system are run through the phone system, so that had to be upgraded as well. And then, of course, things that you don't think about, like what about the phone in the elevator? And we'll see that in a minute, how that part works. But again, the technology committee, the phone committee, those who were involved in any way of upgrading our sound system, and of course, a lot of it spearheaded by Dave Campion, who does do the live streaming for our services. So maybe you've been in here before, maybe some of you are afraid to come in here, but we're very fortunate to have this elevator. Because of the multi-levels of this building, it allows everybody to be able to participate in everything here at the church. Well, one of the doors needed replaced, and the door cost thousands of dollars to replace this door. And if we didn't replace it, the elevator could not function. So we were able to replace the door so that we can continue to use our elevator for all of the groups that use our building. So I referred to the emergency call system. We no longer have a phone in the elevator, but if you push the button on the device on the wall, you can see that it will call for help It will ring in the office, and it will also call a cell phone. So if you're ever trapped in the elevator, just press that button. Here we are to where I like to call the heart of this place. It's really the heart of where ministry happens. So the elevator has led you down to Strom Hall. This big hall is used to host our AA meetings. You can see currently the chairs are spread out 6 feet apart, and the numbers had to be reduced from their normal sizes so that we could continue to help the groups meet in a safe way and still stay within our COVID protocols. And so we have now actually increased the number of AA meetings that we have here to 9 meetings a week because many churches are not allowing AA meetings to meet currently. So you can see this nice big space. Well, the other thing we do in this space, of course, is host our community meals, which we've not been able to do inside. So we've been preparing the meals to go and distributing at the East Door. So as I said, this is the heart of where we do ministry, Strom Hall and Strom Hall Kitchen. We have this amazing restaurant-sized kitchen, which we're able to prepare our community meals that happen several times a week. So in order to do that, we need to keep this place running and clean. Our freezer was failing, so we were able to purchase a new freezer for this space. Our stove needed to be repaired and cleaned thoroughly, and so that was able to happen. The whole space itself was thoroughly cleaned, removing things from under the sinks, scouring the floor, and the whole wall along the windows and back by the dishwasher. That whole wall had to be rebuilt, again, because of the failed masonry. So this whole project in the kitchen, there were numerous projects. There was the cleaning project, the freezer project, the stove project, the wall projects, the new heater, which I forgot to mention. All of that small heater, of course, everything adds up. But this is where we prepare our meals for the community. This is where the AA groups are usually able to make coffee so that they can have hospitality. This is where we have our own church big functions when we invite the whole community for lessons and carols or Thanksgiving. So again, this is really our heart, and we have to thank Susan O'Donnell, the kitchen team, and anyone else, again, who helped clean and plan, but also all of those who during the pandemic who have kept the community meals going. Many of you know you volunteer, but certainly Margie Hildebrandt is one of the key people who helps us continue with our community meals and continues to help us to meet the needs of those in our neighborhood. So here we are in the church itself. Many of you have heard countless sermons from this pulpit before, but it's important to remember if Strom Hall and Kitchen are our heart, this is really our soul. This is where we worship and praise God. This is where we hear the word read and preached. This is where we celebrate the sacraments. Well, this parish has been instrumental in raising people up for ministry. As you know, Barb Telfer went through her preparation as a deacon here. We were blessed to have her for 3 years. Well, she finished her EFM classes, her formal education. So she did the 4th year after she finished her time with us here at Church of the Ascension. She preached from this pulpit many times. Noah Sutterish was ordained a transitional deacon, and then we as a parish and the vestry signed the final letter recommending that he be ordained a priest for the whole church and for the whole world. And so he was ordained a priest just on the Feast of the Epiphany, January 6th. And we've been blessed and entrusted by our bishop and the diocese with the training of our seminarian, Leah. Many of you have gotten to know and love Leah. In fact, it's because of her that we're making this video. She's the master behind this video and the other videos that we've had, that we did for the pop-up nativity, that we did for stewardship in regards to hearing parishioners witness, or projects that we've done around the church. And so we have all these people being formed to be part of the wider church, just as each of us are. We come here to worship, yes, to glorify and praise God, but also to be equipped for ministry ourselves, each of us, each of you. And we do so with grateful hearts and gratitude that we have been able to continue to be formed and to help others be formed in their walk with Christ. So there we've been all around the church, outside and inside. You've heard about a lot of our ministries and the work that has continued to be done on this beautiful building, the regular cleanup of the grounds, the tending of our lawn and our flowers. We've been very blessed, even in this very difficult year, this time of pandemic, to be able to witness to the world that the Church of Jesus Christ does not close, that we are able to adapt. But doing so needs all of us to take our role, each and every one of us, to do our part financially, spiritually, physically, emotionally, and mentally. I thank God for each of you and for the privilege to continue to serve as your priest.